So with the heavyweight GOAT fight between Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic later on this year, I thought this would be a perfect time to make a top 15 greatest of all time list. I've never put one out, and I think this would be a great time. And just before I go into the list, I just want to go over my criteria for the greatest fighter of all time. I think title defenses, strength of era and weight class, overall dominance in those fights, and then your length of dominance overall your entire career are the four pillars of a great career. And a lot of those are, kind of not objective, but subjective. But I would say title defenses are the least subjective, even though, again, I think that a guy like Tony Ferguson, who has no undisputed championships, is better than someone like Jens Pulver. But, again, he just didn't get that opportunity. Sometimes it's because Dana White thinks you're boring or he doesn't like you, and then other times, you get a title shot that you don't deserve because you just, are really good at talking trash. Won't name any names, Conor McGregor. But at number 15, I have Randy Couture. Randy Couture was the opposite of a Conor McGregor. He did not talk any trash at all. And he has eight championships. Not a lot of people know that. Randy Couture, again, he started out super late in life, but this was in the infancy of the UFC. But even though it was the infancy of the UFC, he was still just learning and just figuring out the sport like everyone else. And he, experienced so much success, again, in two weight classes. And this was before double champ status was even a thing, and he was doing it at light heavyweight and heavyweight. At number 14, Daniel Cormier has 6 championships. And again, he has it at heavyweight and light heavyweight. He's the perfect example of someone who just is honestly one of the best of all time, but always somehow came in second place, even whenever he came in first place, because he's second place to Jon Jones at light heavyweight, and then he's second place to Stipe Miocic at heavyweight. Again, kind of a sad career, but very, very successful at the same time. Then at number 13, I have Dominick Cruz. Dominick Cruz I would definitely have higher at 7 championships. But again, I've watched back a lot of his fights, and they weren't the most dominant. He had moments of dominance, but again, his finishing ability was very poor, or I would maybe say rare. He could finish fights, and again, he was very dominant. It's just, again, he just wasn't as dominant as the other champions on this list. At number 12, I have Islam Makhachev. And again, great, title defenses so far and everything. And I think that he could easily move up on this list later on at 2 title defenses against Volkanovski, and then winning the belt from Charles Oliveira. Again, his strength of schedule is, I would say, as good or better, honestly, than Khabib. But again, he just hasn't won as many fights, or as many title fights. So I will put him at number 12, but he can absolutely, even this year, he can move up higher. At number 11, I have Kamaru Usman. He has 6 championship wins, and again, strength of schedule is actually pretty good. It's not as good as some of the people on this list, but again, just the sheer dominance of people that he probably should have dominated, like a Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal, don't even want to get started on him, but right place, right time, and definitely should not have been fighting for any championships, much less 2. But other than that, again, all of his championship wins were fantastic, very, very dominant. And then at number 10, we have Israel Adesanya at 7 championship wins, and that's not even including his interim championship win over Kelvin Gastelum. Now, with Israel Adesanya, everybody says that he's just a striker, he's kind of one-dimensional, and that he, I guarantee a bunch of people will not say that he's a top 10 fighter of all time. But think about this. The UFC put him up against wrestlers, and he passed. Again, Marvin Vettori, is one of, if not the best wrestler in the whole middleweight division, and couldn't hold, I don't even know if he took him down, but surely couldn't hold down Israel Adesanya. So, yeah, again, Israel Adesanya, he put together an incredible run at middleweight. He is the second best middleweight of all time behind Anderson Silva, and that is absolutely good enough to get you into the top 10. Now, at number 9, I have Alexander Volkanovski, and he has 6 title wins at this point. He can still move up. Absolutely can still move up. And the big thing, whenever you're looking at all-time great guys, because right now we're getting into, all-time legends of the sport. And what happens is, again, you beat the previous generation. And that would obviously be, Jose Aldo, Chad Mendez, people like that. Then you start to beat guys of your own era. And that would be more like, obviously, Max Holloway. That would be like Yair Rodriguez. But then whenever you come up against the next era of Temporia, if you do that and you beat the next generation, that's whenever you become legendary. And that's why, again, this fight that's coming up, with Alexander Volkanovski and Temporia, it's going to be, again, a potentially legend-making fight. Super excited for it. At number 8, we have Stipe Miocic at 6 wins as well, title wins. And that, again, in the UFC's heavyweight division is, I would say, more impressive. Just because, again, at any point, you can be more skilled than your opponent. At any point, your opponent can shut your lights out. And to have that many championship wins is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. And again, to do it against the guys who he's done it against, too, the strength of schedule, especially for the heavyweight division, is incredible. He's going up against, the greatest fighters of all time. It wasn't like, he beat, just tomato cans the whole time. Amazing. And again, everybody knows that he's, at least in the UFC, the heavyweight GOAT. But I would not necessarily say that he is the heavyweight GOAT, period. And then at number 7, we have Khabib Nurmagomedov at 4 championship wins. And Khabib, he's obviously just dominant. Like, that is the biggest, reason why he's on this list. Because the thing is that having 4 championship wins, to be honest, is a little... it's the least impressive thing about Khabib. Him leaving as early as he did is just so sad because, again, he's 7 of all time on my list, and he could have easily have been top 5, top 4, maybe even top 3 if he kept on going, because, he was miles ahead of everyone else. But to retire whenever he did, that's honestly why he's so low in this list. But again, number 7 still not bad. Number 6 of all time, Jose Aldo, 10 title wins. That is amazing. And again, whenever you're getting into double digits, this is the first guy with double digits. And again, whenever you're talking about like WEC, especially, like maybe even Strikeforce 2, you can count those championships, but especially WEC. Again, like by far they had the best lower weight classes in the entire world. It was almost like, Pride, the heavyweight division in Pride, before they merged with the UFC. So again, having 10 title defenses in UFC and WEC is amazing. And that's why he is an absolute legend. And him having 10 title defenses is why he's number 6 of all time, and Conor McGregor is not in the top 25. And at number 5, we have Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva is, again, you don't even need to really explain it. He has he's obviously in double digits, with title defenses or with title wins. I'm not sure about defenses. But yeah, again, his finishing ability is really, because it's not even really at this point, it's not really even about the title defenses, but his ability to finish fights just at any point is just amazing. If you go back and just look at his highlight reel, It really is something. But again, it's almost like, just imagine if Israel Adesanya was a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the 2000s. Like, I mean, that's unheard of now, but like way, 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 way back in the day, like in the 2000s, to be that well versed in not just really even just kickboxing, but like Muay Thai, and just, I mean, he floats. I mean, just, I mean, and the guy almost, I mean, he was hanging in there with Israel Adesanya. And again, a lot of people thought that Israel Adesanya was like taking it easy on him. I don't think so. Like, Israel was like really trying to put it on him, and he couldn't. And it's because Israel is really that good. Like a prime Israel Adesanya or a prime Anderson Silva, I think would absolutely beat prime Israel Adesanya. At number 3, no, actually at number 4, sorry. At number 4, I'm going to go ahead and say that number 4 and number 3 are completely interchangeable. I would say that Demetrius Johnson, he's won in 2 different weight classes, just because in one championship, the guy who the Andrea Moraes, something like that, he's so much bigger than Demetrius Johnson. I mean, we're talking like a weight class from maybe even 2 bigger than Demetrius Johnson, and he goes out there, gets knocked out, but then comes back and knocks him out. Demetrius Johnson is amazing. He has 12 title championships. And, I mean, once you get into like double digits, it almost doesn't even matter at that point. But it's amazing. It's amazing what he's done. And I think if you go back and watch his fights, like the guys who he fights are better than you would think. And I think the reason why, again, people look at how his strength of schedule not being as good as some of the other guys is because they were never able to really get much of a name, because if they got any name at all, they would be put against Demetrius, and then he would win, and then they would lose all their name value. It was kind of the reverse effect for Jon Jones, because all these guys already had a name, and then they were kind of on the, I wouldn't say the downturn of their career, but they probably weren't in their primes anymore. But then Jon Jones beats them. They have huge names, but it's almost like the reverse for DJ. He's beating all these up and coming guys, just one after another, and they really don't have names because they haven't really had the ability, because Demetrius beats them. So there's that, and the interchangeable guy I would put with Demetrius Johnson is George St Pierre. George St Pierre, obviously, I mean, again, you don't really even need to like say anything about him. He has as many title wins as Demetrius Johnson, or somewhere around that. I mean, just obviously extremely dominant champion. He can submit you just like he can knock you out. And he really doesn't even have one-punch knockout power. Again, he's just so highly, highly skilled, and he's so good at risk management. The guy is almost never going to put himself in any kind of danger. And obviously, whenever he did, he got finished both times. And again, a guy like Demetrius Johnson, and this is why I say like they're kind of interchangeable, because they've really had like different careers, but very similar careers at the same time. And yeah, they're 2 of the most skilled people who've ever been in mixed martial arts. Number 2, I would absolutely say Fedor Emelianenko. I've been watching some of his fights back, with Big Nog and with Krokop, and oh my goodness, like, I mean, he bounces around. I mean, and again, this is like early 2000s. Like, I mean, I personally think like early 2000s Fedor would beat Stipe Miocic in the 2010s. Like prime Stipe Miocic versus prime Fedor. Forget like the gap of like skill and everything. That's like the difference between, the 2000s and the 2010s. I think Fedor still wins. I mean, the ability of him to get out of every single submission that Big Nog threw at him was amazing. And then the ground and pound, he looked like Khabib. And he threw like Khabib. He threw as much as Khabib, but the dude didn't get tired, and he's a heavyweight. And then on the feet, he's amazing. Just again, he's not like, a Mike Tyson boxer or something, but it just works. He throws these like awkward, weird punches, honestly, kind of like Khabib too. And the opponent is just scared that he's going to get taken down, so it just works. He had, I think, 5 title defenses technically, or 5 title wins technically. But then if you include the Grand Prix for Pride and WA MMA championships, he has 11. And again, those days were very strange just because they would throw him freak show fights, and they would throw him just all these like weird like giants, but then there were some real fights, in between there. So some of that, and that's honestly why whenever I was growing up, my brother showed me a highlight reel of Fedor, and I was not impressed at all. But I've come to warm up to Fedor a lot, honestly, just watching heavyweights over the years and then going back and watching his fights. It is incredible. I have absolutely no idea how he was that fast, that powerful, and had that amazing endurance. I think it's probably the most underrated thing about Fedor Emelianenko is his endurance. Number 1, by far, Jon Jones. And again, just like everybody else, this is if basically you because if you go the steroid approach, in baseball or cycling or whatever, and you just kind of like say, well, since he, got caught or he cheated or whatever, then he's disqualified, then he's not on the list, and maybe we can find somebody else for number 15. But if you include him, it's not even close. Dude never lost a fight. He had like a couple close fights, but never even getting, I don't think he's ever been dropped. And to win 14 championships, that is just, it's stupid. It is just ridiculous to fight in mixed martial arts where, you have 1,000,001 ways to lose, and this dude never lost. Steroids or not, there have been so many people who've taken steroids in mixed martial arts, and they've all lost. But yeah, Jon Jones is obviously the GOAT. There is no question. And whenever he fights Stipe Miocic, he should win. And I do not think that he will retire. I think like somebody like George St Pierre, somebody like Demetrius Johnson, who has a career outside of fighting, I think they could definitely say goodbye, to the sport and really not have, any issues. They have a good family life, all that good stuff. But a guy like Jon Jones does not have what Daniel Cormier has. He seems to not have the most stable home life. He doesn't seem to have, a successful YouTube channel or, a successful, commentating career or anything. I think he sees himself as a fighter, and that's because he is. And I don't see him leaving. And if he does, I think he's going to get bored really fast. And 2, he's not losing. If he was getting knocked out every other fight, or just on a big, down spiral like a Tony Ferguson, then, maybe I could see him retiring. But it's like a guy like Jon Jones is not gonna especially stay retired for very long. At the very least, he's going to try to do some like celebrity boxing match, try to get out of his contract, to make, the big bucks or something. But he is not going to retire and go off into the sunset. Just not going to happen. Even if, maybe it should a little bit later on down the road. But to be honest, again, I think he's coming into his prime for a heavyweight. Again, at light heavyweight, probably not. But at heavyweight, yeah, you can absolutely be in your prime in your mid-30s and really even into your 40s, or maybe up until 40. But yeah, so those are my top 15 greatest fighters of all time. Again, Please tell me your top 15. I think this is like one of the most interesting topics in mixed martial arts, is greatest fighters of all time. How do you determine who's the greatest? What are the greatest eras? Again, love to see the comments and the discussions and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, please drop a comment down below, and I will try my best to respond to every comment. And at this point, I kind of can respond to every comment. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.